Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
For writers and public personalities, it's becoming increasingly important to have an online presence. This normally takes the form of a website and social media. However, things like a cluttered site or broken links can scare potential readers away. It's time to get a health check. Until the 30th of June, Black Wolf Editorial Services is offering a special website health check package. Get a new bio for your site. Have the site navigation and general layout assessed. Get a review of your Twitter activities. Get an objective opinion about your public Facebook page. Find out what works well and what could potentially scare your readers away. And all this for $35. At the end of the day, the face we put online will be the one that most people will see. Let us help you put your best foot forward. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For full details and a list of other services, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. All right, this is Jessie of K98 Talk with my Saturday Slowdown. And for those of you who are new to listening, my Saturday Slowdown is where I take a while and actually explore a subject in depth, and we And often, as today, I'm not alone. I've got a guest. I've got author and UK police for 30 years in Nottingham, Jonathan Nicholas.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jonathan?
Fine. We've got some lovely weather here in England at last. So we're really enjoying it because we don't know how long it will last, probably a couple of days.
We've been having quite a bit of rain around here where I live too, except it's happening mostly in the evenings or at night. So
Yeah, well, that's okay. You don't mind that.
yeah, it doesn't affect too much. Our days
No.
are gorgeous, and then at night it pours.
Yeah.
It keeps the temperatures down because we've been getting up about 32, 33 degrees Celsius around here lately.
Oh, wow. I think there's probably 3 or 4 days a year it gets like that in England.
Yeah, there's days I wish I could trade weather patterns. What could I say? we get about 2 to 3 months of with days like that dispersed in amongst. Sometimes it'll be 2 or 3 weeks straight. It's in upper 28s, low to mid 30s. We have a day predicted for this weekend of 35.
Oh, blimey. Right.
So, and for those that don't know, that's around the 95-degree region, give or take a few degrees.
Yes, well, we have the centigrade, the European centigrade thing. So I'm in my mid-50s, and I'm still okay with both. I know that 85 degrees is nice, and I also know that 30 degrees is nice. 30 degrees Celsius. And I think the Europeans wanted us to go to kilometres and all that sort of thing, but we haven't. We've still got miles, feet, inches, and we even use stones when we weigh ourselves, which you guys don't. Obviously, you use pounds, but we use pounds and all that sort of thing. I think they tried to get us to use kilograms and all this sort of thing, but we're an island people. We don't want the Europeans telling us what to do. Thank you very much.
Well, that kind of brings us to the topic of your book, and its title is
Who'd Be a Copper?
Who'd Be a Copper? And I believe the topic of your book was political correctness run amok, especially as it relates to the police force.
Yes, there's quite a bit in there about that. It follows my 30-year career from 1984 to 2014. Now, it's quite an interesting progression because I spent 5 years as a hippie traveling the world with a backpack before I joined the police. And I found the cultural change of joining a disciplined organization quite tough, to be honest. But I managed it, and I found it very unusual to be in an organization where at the time in 1984 the British police were not particularly answerable to anybody. It was the police had a lot of freedom, and they were not in the least politically correct. Now, the book demonstrates in the sort of 300 pages that we've gone completely full circle. Now, the UK police are at the vanguard of political correctness in the UK.
I thought I read somewhere that police can actually now give people, I think it's citations or tickets or something for politically incorrect behavior.
Well, I've not heard that in so many words, but certainly, obviously, racism is illegal in a public place. But now what a lot of British people don't realise is we have what we call the Irish joke in the UK. We've always made fun. Every country makes fun of certain minorities, not necessarily ethnic minorities, but I think the Canadians make fun of Newfoundlanders. Is that right? And
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, and it's meant in fun.
I can't tell you how many Jewish jokes I've tripped over here in the US.
All sorts of things. But now, of course, that's classed as racist behaviour. And if you told a Newfie joke or an Irish joke in a pub, which is a public place, you can get arrested.
Now,
And
for those of you who aren't up on your British speak, pub is a pub is a bar.
Oh yes, it still is very much the centre of British society, even though quite a few are closing. But the only place you can tell a mildly racist joke now is in your own home. That's under the Public Order Act of '86. So it's the only place you can do it. So, and certainly when I was in the police, if you wanted to tell a joke to a colleague, what we used to do was we used to take our radios off our uniform, walk out 100 yards into the car park, tell the joke to your colleague, and then walk back into the police station. Because we were told that every single conversation anybody has on police premises belongs to the police. Not only that, the airwave radios, the personal radios that British cops have, they're double encrypted digital radios, but people can dip in and listen to what you're talking about without you knowing. So you can't trust anybody. It's quite sad in the 30 years in the police, I probably got to know hundreds of cops, obviously, but I would trust 3 or 4 maybe.
That's not many over given a 30-year career. I mean,
no, it's not. No, because there's a new anonymous telephone line in the police. We used to call it the grass on a collie. And it's where you can ring anonymously and snitch on a colleague for being indiscreet, racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, whatever. You can ring anonymously to the complaints department at headquarters and do this. And it's that sort of thing I wouldn't be surprised is happening in the US, because I know it's happening in Ireland. I've had cops from the Garda, the Irish police, telling me it's the same there. And it creates this climate of fear.
I know here in this country they're pushing for all police to wear body cams and not be allowed to take them off or turn them off their entire shift, even during like their meal breaks or their restroom breaks or anything like that. And I think that's just an invasion of the police officer's privacy. And I can also tell you that the military has been cracking down on political incorrectness as well. Although they haven't gone to the point of making all soldiers fast during Ramadan, I think they know better than to tell a soldier they can't eat or drink when they're wearing 30 or 40 pounds of gear on a long hike, or a ruck march as they'd call it, with a 70-pound backpack, about 35 kilos.
Yeah.
I think they know better than to pull that one.
Yeah. Well, we were told to be discreet about during Ramadan, about eating and drinking, not only in front of colleagues, but in front of the public as well. But as I said, there was probably 3 or 4 Muslim colleagues in our office. One of them really didn't care at all. And the others just sort of went along with it. But it wasn't the fact that we were all told to do this. It was the fact that why were we told? I don't understand. There's plenty of other religions in the UK.
I could see saying, please don't eat or drink if you're parked in front of a mosque. Please don't eat or drink. If you're right in an area where you're likely to have a large majority of Muslims around you, like at a mosque, you're parked outside a mosque for traffic control or something like that.
Yeah, well, that would be obviously fine. That's a show of respect.
That would make sense to me, but not to do it, period. I'm sorry. That's bordering on ludicrous. And no offense, I'm Jewish. I enjoy the good Jewish joke. I think they're funny. So I certainly don't want to get rid of them. I laugh at them. And I just...
No, quite.
So, what made you decide to write this book?
Well, I wrote a book a few years ago about my experiences in a hospital. People couldn't believe, as a hospital cop, the busiest I was with members of staff actually stealing from each other and stealing from patients. So I just sat in the pub. People couldn't believe it. So I wrote this book called Hospital Beat that sold really well. And they tried to sack me for it because I wrote it while I was in the police, And even though it's very politically correct, there's a little bit of swearing in it and a little bit of sexism, but nothing unacceptable. But the police, because I was still in the job, they tried to sack me for it. But I managed to get through, and I got to retirement a couple of years ago, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to write about what the police has become. And it is so politically correct, it's almost hampering, well, it is hampering their efficiency, almost on a third world sort of corruption scale.
Quick question, have they tried to take away your retirement because of this new book?
No, there's only one thing that they can stop your pension for, and that's high treason. If I decided to go to Buckingham Palace, climb over the wall and strangle the Queen, which of course I wouldn't do because I'm a monarchist anyway.
Okay, so unless you do something extremely egregious,
yeah,
your pension is safe.
Yeah, but the sad thing is though that a lot of retired cops they think exactly the same as me. The vast majority think the same as me. They're frustrated by all the political correctness and everything, but when they retire, they think, oh, I better keep quiet because we daren't say anything. Because of X, Y, and Z or whatever, they'll take my pension or whatever. It's nonsense. When you've retired, you're a member of the public. And if you want to say something that you disagree with, you should put your hand up and say it. I'm fed up with people in this world. I have friends telling me, I don't know how you're outrageous on social media. You're saying this and you're saying that. I don't say anything like that. That's really, I think you're very brave, and I think you're this. And some people say, well, I think you're stupid. You're obviously an idiot. You're saying these things. You're inviting criticism. You're even perhaps inviting people to punch you on the nose if they see you because you're saying these things. And I say, well, I'm only saying the truth. This is the truth. If people don't like the truth, that's tough.
I do have a question, and this. This goes back to that anonymous tip line. Don't you have a right in your country to face your accuser?
No, not in the police. That's why you said something about body cams. I think they're a brilliant idea for police officers. I think they should wear them all the time because there's so many times cops get these malicious complaints, bogus complaints. Now, if you're wearing a body cam,
all the time. When they're on a call, if they're on their lunch break or in the restroom or something like that, come on, people.
Well, no, I agree. But as I said to you before, we were told in the police that any conversation on police premises belongs to the police. So that effectively means you cannot say what you want to anybody, not even to yourself out loud. So the body cam becomes irrelevant because it's just part of it, if you like. But the pluses of the body cams far outweigh the negatives because there are so many. Put it this way: if you get a complaint in the police, it's probably the same.
I'm fine with the body cams as long as they have audio. Some departments in this country have instituted body cameras that have no audio.
Well, they should because they get all the swearing and so on,
and what the
police
person is saying to you. And so I'm fine with body cameras as long as they have the audio, because often the audio provides the context.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Yeah, that's where you hear all the swearing against the police officer and the provocation, so that when the police officer makes the arrest, puts the handcuffs on, the chaps say, well, what are you doing this for, and all this sort of thing. But what you don't see is what happened before, all the provocation and the picking a fight with the police officer. So I think they're great. I think they really are.
I'm fine with them, but I still think officers, when they go to break or go to their meals or go to the restroom, don't need them on.
Or go to the toilet, probably.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sorry. Who needs to see or hear that nonsense? Thank you. I leave my husband alone in the restroom even. I'm sorry, but unless you have to enter the restroom to drag, the bathroom to drag someone out, you don't need the body camera on.
No.
So I'm sorry, but when you're eating your meal and you're sitting eating your lunch in a quiet spot, you're not doing anything. I don't see any reason why they should have to wear them then. Obviously, if they have to respond to a call, they put them back on.
Yeah.
But they should be quick and easy enough that they could turn them on real quick with the tap of a button or something like that. But I also feel that a cop shouldn't be allowed to turn them off during a call.
No, that's right. So, yeah, it would be suspicious, though, if you get sent to a call, you arrive there and the camera goes off, and then the next thing you see the cop driving away. I mean, that's obviously going to be very suspicious. So, yeah, I agree. But I generally agree with them. They're great because if you get an accusation in the British police, you could be suspended for years. I know a colleague who was accused of some sort of misdemeanor with statement taking, and he was suspended for 3.5 years on full pay.
Okay.
And he was completely exonerated at the end of it. But that's the sort of draconian.
At least he was suspended with pay.
Well, quite. But it's just ridiculous. That's taxpayers' money, for God's sake.
For a cop that didn't do any, you're paying a cop not to work who didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. They took him to Crown Court, which is the Supreme Court equivalent over here. And I was one of 10 other cops who were giving evidence against him, actually. And I don't know why, because we hadn't seen anything. I was asked if I'd seen him sign blank witness statement paper, obviously fraudulent, before the witness statement had even been taken. And I said, no, I hadn't. And after 3 or 4 of us giving evidence, the judge threw it out. He said, this chap's got nothing to answer. And that's at the end of 3.5 years. It was absolutely ridiculous. But that's another issue about the police service in the UK. They're trying to reduce cop numbers down to virtually nil. It's my opinion that they want private security.
Hasn't violence been on the rise overall in the EU?
Violent crime is up.
And
do you know that the French police have 110,000 armed cops? And Britain, it's almost the same population as France, we have 6,000 armed cops in the whole of the UK. And they have to ask permission from the chief constable to even get the gun out of the cabinet. And then they have to ask permission to get some ammunition as well. Now, if you've got somebody running amok with an AK-47 in a shopping mall,
by the time you go through all that, you're going to get there and...
Well, quite. There was a chap with an air gun came to our police station, and he was firing this air gun at the front of the building.
Thank God it was an air gun.
It was an air gun, yeah, but he was firing this thing. We didn't know it was an air gun. It took nearly an hour for an armed cop to arrive, and that was only like 3 miles. So you tell me if we're safe.
No. And people here in this country want to increase the number of gun-free zones. Now, I happen to be a gun owner here in the United States, and I have what's called a concealed carry permit.
Oh, right.
Which means unless I'm in an area where weapons aren't allowed, such as a gun-free zone or federal property where guns aren't allowed,
right,
I have the legal right in any state that accepts my permit to have, and I carry a 9mm Glock, to have my gun concealed on my person.
You're kidding.
I carry it almost every day.
Well, I'll let you on in a secret. If I could, I would too.
I'm sorry, but here's the other thing, though. As a gun owner, I feel to be a responsible gun owner, I have to practice with that weapon. I can't buy it, stick it in a case, ignore it, and then expect to actually be able to fire it when I have to one of these days. I go at least once a month, often twice a month, to the range. I practice it. I practice drawing it from the concealed holster among both summer and winter clothes in the different positions I might find myself with a backpack on my back, with a bag in my hand. Obviously I'll just put something that if I drop it in the bag, it's not going to break. But I'll have a shopping bag on my arm and practice drawing it just to see. So that's something I have to thank my first husband for. He taught me how to shoot. And one unique thing about me is I can shoot equally well right or left-handed, and I don't have to worry about controlling my breath to shoot with the same accuracy.
Oh, right. That's great.
And I have put thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds downrange to get to that point.
Yeah, well, I used to be in the police handgun team, okay, and every day, sort of, when I wanted to go to the range, we had a Smith & Wesson and a police special, 38 special, and we'd do a bit of shooting before work, all this sort of thing. And then they banned handguns here in the UK, of course. So now nobody can own a handgun, anywhere. And even, would you believe, the British handgun Olympic shooting team, they have to go to Holland to practice. Now, they won gold medal at the last Olympics. They won.
Okay,
right?
So they have to go to Holland.
They have to go to Holland to practice. So how's that? How crazy is that?
I flew across the country. I've actually purchased my handgun in another state from the one I currently reside in because I don't reside in my legal state of residence due to my husband's military service. So I purchased the gun in my legal state of residence. And I went to the airport, told them I had an unloaded firearm I needed to check with my luggage, and I had already looked up the regulations on how to proceed with all this. It was not only unloaded, but it had a lock through the barrel and the chamber,
right?
Basically a red cable that went down through it, so that my cat could have told you the thing was unloaded.
Right.
And then I put it in the manufacturer's case inside a Pelican case with 2 padlocks that nobody could open but me.
Right.
And checked it, no problem.
You're
and
kidding.
Arrived in the state I was going to, picked it up at baggage. They had it pulled aside at baggage check-in. Picked it up at baggage check-in, put it in my vehicle, drove home. Do you know how long it took me to purchase said handgun?
Weeks. A week, maybe?
It took me about an hour and a half, maybe 2, to pick out the one I wanted. About 20 minutes worth of paperwork. A couple hours later, I'm walking out of the gun shop.
You're kidding.
Now, that included an FBI background check.
Well, I know that here in the UK, you can't own handguns, but you can still own
shotguns or rifles?
Yeah, rifles and shotguns. But even now, they're really making it very, very difficult.
I purchased an AR-15. Actually, I didn't purchase it. I gave my husband the money to go purchase it because he wanted one. He left for the store, came back a couple hours later. He'd already taken it to the gun range and fired it, and we were cleaning it within 4 or 5 hours.
But that's in your Constitution, though, isn't it? Is it the Second Amendment?
Yes, Second Amendment, yes.
Yeah. But they're going to take that away.
They're trying. They're trying.
They will. If Hillary gets in, they'll take it away. I'm telling you now, they will, because they're doing it here. They've done it here. They're making it very, very difficult to even own a shotgun. They're asking your neighbours what sort of person you are. They're asking you how much you drink. They're asking, and even if you get, I know a friend of mine who's got a couple of shotguns. He got arrested for drink drive recently. He was only 2 micrograms over the limit, which is just like a couple of beers. And they've taken all his guns off him, and they've banned him from owning firearms for 7 years because he was just 2 micrograms over the legal drive limit. Their excuse is, well, you shouldn't. If you want to own a firearm, you should be a flawless member of society. Now,
okay, I don't know of any human being who walks on this earth who is perfect.
Well, quite, but they're finding any excuse. It's like they're finding any excuse to sack police officers in the UK because they can't be made redundant. They're what they call crown agents. There's no redundancy system. So what they're doing is the slightest discipline issue within the UK police is now what's called gross misconduct, and you face the sack. There are cops being disciplined in the UK for clicking like on Facebook.
Okay, wait a minute.
So they're monitoring Facebook.
Now I have a question. If you have your profile, locked down so that only your friends can see it, do they request your password and username and all that for Facebook? Because I know personally, I have a public persona that goes with my show, but then I have a private Facebook Facebook account
Right.
that isn't even under my real name. It's under an alias. So good luck figuring that one out.
Well, the serving cops I still know, I'm obviously in touch with quite a lot. The ones that have not come off Facebook, which is quite a lot, they've all come off social media because it's not worth the risk. One slight indiscretion and you'd be in serious trouble. But the ones that are still on Facebook have really odd fake names, so that nobody can tell who they are unless you know.
That's exactly.
The cops I still know in the job have to have really heavily disguised account names on social media, and they never ever put photographs of themselves on, obviously. And whatever they do put, there are no opinions of any sort, even moderately controversial, because they're monitored. The police monitor the police off duty, which is, to a certain extent, I agree. You can't go around breaking the law as a cop off duty.
Right. I mean, cops should live to a higher standard.
Well, that's right.
To make them keep every single opinion they have explicitly to themselves, I say that's asking too much of any human being.
Well, I agree, and it's just absolutely asking too much that you're not allowed a private life. I mean, under the UN Charter of Human Rights, I think it's Article 8 where it says everybody is entitled to a private life, but clearly you're not if you work for the police, because you have to be this person, the vanguard of political correctness, 24/7. You can't even. I mean, if you were in a bar or a pub somewhere, and you let slip that you perhaps don't like migrants very much, and somebody knew you were a cop standing next to you, they could make a complaint and you'd probably get the sack just for expressing an opinion. I mean, you're not even being racist. I mean, that is how far we've gone, where if you don't embrace all these migrants we've now got coming into Europe, if you don't openly embrace them and encourage it, then people think, well, you've got to be a racist then,
I'm sorry, but...
People are disadvantaged and all this sort of thing. But the problem is you can't. There's 350 million refugees floating around the world. If they all come to Europe, we'll be in a lot of trouble. And I don't mean that.
I can tell you at least 10,000 of them are destined for this country, and here's what we're going to do for them.
10,000 is not all. How did you get it so low?
I will answer that for you after we come back from this commercial break.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
For writers and public personalities, it's becoming increasingly important to have an online presence. This normally takes the form of a website and social media. However, things like a cluttered site or broken links can scare potential readers away. It's time to get a health check. Until the 30th of June, Black Wolf Editorial Services is offering a special website health check package. Get a new bio for your site. Have the site navigation and general layout assessed. Get a review of your Twitter activities. Get an objective opinion about your public Facebook page. Find out what works well and what could potentially scare your readers away. And all this for $35. At the end of the day, the face we put online will be the one that most people will see. Let us help you put your best foot forward. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For full details and a list of other services, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination.
Thank you for bearing with me while I paid some bills. We're going to get back to my interview with Jonathan Nicholas, my UK police officer friend. Oh, please, I don't even want the 10,000.
Germany took 1.2 million just last year.
And I think they're bonkers for it.
Well, they are, but there's a problem with demographics, particularly in places like Italy, where the birth rate is really, really low. It's all across Europe. The birth rate is very, very low. So what the governments have decided to do is import lots of young men of fit sort of working age to obviously boost the numbers and all this sort of thing. But it's the type of people they're bringing in. You know, if people don't integrate and they don't want to integrate
or assimilate or at least make an attempt
to
participate in the society, then
quite. But you know, it's you've got to.
All right. Well, evidently the internet gremlins are with us today, and Jonathan and I got disconnected. So now that I've got him back, we're going to try and pick back up with police officers in the UK and social media and how they're having to hide if they want to stay on social media at all.
Yes, the serving cops I still know in the police have to disguise their identity on social media because they're being monitored. They're monitored by the police. Any indiscretion of any sort, and they're in serious trouble. So it's really odd. But most of them have come off social media because of the risk involved, which I wonder if that's a direct challenge to free speech in a way. Because I mean, we don't expect cops to be rude and racist and all this sort of thing on social media, but even just expressing an opinion. I mean, it's not even allowed. You know, it's really bizarre how it's got to that extreme.
Well, personally, I'm very thankful for another one of our lovely amendments here in this country is the right of free speech, which I hate to say, I'm thinking Donald Trump wants to hamper that one. Hillary wants to get rid of the second, and Trump wants to get rid of the first. He keeps saying that if he gets elected president, the press won't be able to print or say what they want.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't realize that. Well, that's no good at all, is it?
No, so I'm not real happy with either one of our two mainstream candidates this year. Because, no offense, I like both my First and Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I would as well.
So, all right. So, now, on the segment you did for my Tuesday night show, we've gotten off on how police officers are being told not to eat or drink during Ramadan.
Yeah, they're being told to be very discreet. Usually you can grab a coffee or a sandwich at your desk in the general office, but now you obviously during Ramadan you're told. Yes, I was very surprised because the police station I worked in was very multicultural. There are 270 languages spoken in that part of Nottingham. Yeah, it's huge, and it's very diverse, obviously. And so I was very surprised when we were all ordered during Ramadan not to eat or drink in front of Muslim colleagues, because we'd never been asked to comply with anything for Sikhism or Judaism or Shintoism or anything else. It was just the Ramadan issue. Not only that, we were ordered not to make planned arrests of Muslim people during fasting. Now, that's you may say, and there are critics who say, well, okay, well, you're told the same about Christmas Day and Boxing Day and so on, New Year's Day, all this sort of thing. But Christmas Day is a single day. You know, it's not 4 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it's like taking them off the hook for 4 weeks. But why? Why is that? Why do we do that? You know, it's not our choice for them to not eat or drink. Well, quite. So, you know,
it's their choice. It's not yours.
That's right. But it's the fact that if you don't comply as a police officer, you risk being disciplined and ultimately dismissal, because if you don't comply, then you're obviously a racist. That's the implication.
That's nuts.
It is. It's just gone way too far. As I said, from 1984, when I joined the police in Nottingham, there was virtually no political correctness. But now it's that the police lead the way. They're far and above more politically correct than anybody else in the whole of Britain. And I'm just wondering why. I sometimes wonder whether these things are being tested within the police service with a view to rolling it out across the whole population. Well, this political
that might be. That's an interesting theory. I hadn't given that particular theory a thought, but
no. Well, it's interesting because, as I said, you know, if you're a cop, you either give up your social media or you disguise yourself heavily because it's being monitored. There's a colleague I know who's now since retired. She was disciplined for clicking like on Facebook.
Okay, wait a minute.
So, you know,
please tell me, do you know what she happened to have liked?
It was something mildly critical of the migrant issue, I believe. But it wasn't even racist. It was critical of policy. And that's the issue there. If you don't support all these issues that the government supports, then it's becoming almost Orwellian in having to toe the line. Do you know what I mean? You're not allowed an alternative opinion. If you stick your head above the parapet and have an alternative opinion, they jump on you really heavily. And
have you had any backlash from anyone because of your book? I mean, other than friends going, "Are you sure?"
I had a couple of anonymous phone calls. Yeah, there's people telling me they know where I live, that sort of thing, you know. So, and I know I'm in touch with people on Twitter who are critical of the establishment line on migrants and so on, and they've been threatened too. I've been blocked. I've been blocked quite a few times. First of all, they engage in an argument and they start being personally abusive, and then they end with a dreadful personal insult, and then they block you, so that when you try to engage with them to put your argument forward, you can't because they've blocked you. I've got about half a dozen blockages on Twitter from people who don't like what I say. but they refuse to engage. But then I'm in touch on social media with Palestinians who claim to be in Gaza, in the West Bank, Saudi Arabia, all over the place, and Muslim people I know in this country absolutely fine about some of the issues because they know I'm not being anti-Islam. I don't care what people do behind the closed doors. They can worship the flying spaghetti monster or the teapot the chocolate teapot that orbits the sun. They can do whatever they want. It's when they tell me you've got to do it as well. Yeah. That's what upsets me.
I agree with you.
The fact that you can't eat, you can't drink because I have this religion that tells me I can't. So I don't want you to do it either. I put an analogy. I put an analogy on Twitter recently. I said that, look, if I invent this cult whereby I stand on one leg for an hour a day, I would be offended then if you don't hop past me on one leg just as a matter of respect. And that, I know that sounds absurd, but why there's a parallel with there.
I understand what you were getting at, yeah.
Ramadan has come along there. In the UK...
That tweet is actually what caught my attention and made me decide to ask you to come on the show because I'm like, oh my gosh, that is an incredible analogy for the chaos. And it's
well, in the UK, in this time of year, we only have about 4 hours of night time, so you're virtually starving. It's no good for your kidneys. It's no good for your liver or your pancreas, anything. You're going to get headaches, all this sort of thing, all for some sort of god that frankly is, it's not part of our culture.
Right. So I mean, if it was my religion, that would be one thing. It would be my choice. Now, as I've said before, I'm Jewish, and we have one major fast day a year. Yet I have actually been around plenty of people that were consuming food on my fast days. And, I did actually ask one friend not to bake chocolate chip cookies while I was at her house. Right. I was going to be there for about 20-25 minutes, and she'd been working on baking cookies for something for her daughter. And I'm like, can you hold off on that for just a few minutes? And she, of course, totally understood once I reminded her what was going on, but I was asking her to refrain for a few moments while we concluded what we had to conclude. I wasn't saying don't, I'm saying that's something I don't think, that one item is something I don't think I could withstand. Do you mind for a few minutes? And, of course, she was fine with it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I was asking for a few moments, not saying, oh, well, because I'm doing this, you have to do this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, if somebody said, can you just, tuck away that cup of coffee for 5 minutes until I get out of the room, that would be one thing.
Yeah, but if you're forcing people, if you're ordering people on pain of discipline or dismissal,
it's wrong.
Then it's not real. And we had all these. I went on these. I was a community police officer, so I went on all these diversity courses because I was curious. I went on a Gypsy Awareness Day, Travellers Awareness Day, a Gay Awareness Day, and a Muslim Awareness Day. The Gay Awareness Day was fantastic because there was a guy who was a really overweight chap with a pockmarked face. And I was waiting for the gay guy to come in and say, this is what it was like in the police when I was gay. But this guy was, I was in the police for 30 years in London. And I thought, this guy can't be the gay guy, surely. But he was. He used to have to invent a girlfriend at weekends so that when he went back to see his colleagues and all this, he was ostracized. It was the climate in the police was it's different now, obviously, but that really blew a hole in the whole sort of gay issue that they really are no different to anybody else. They just practice something different. Right. But on the Muslim Awareness Day, there was a guy came to see us. We sat round in a semicircle, and he was dressed in all the robes. He was apparently a police sergeant, though I've no idea. I'd never seen him around. And he told us all about Islam and all this, their views on alcohol and all this sort of thing. So somebody put their hand up and said, well, what's your views on alcohol then? And this guy just said, well, we will never reconcile ourselves to the way you drink alcohol And not only that, the way your women dress, we'll never reconcile ourselves to this at all. No true Muslim will reconcile ourselves to this. And we were just all stunned into silence. We thought, well, what is the future for integration? And I said, well, where were you born then? He said, well, I was born in Derby. So he'd lived here all his life, and yet he's calling us, you and your customs and the way you treat your women. And all this, and I thought, well, you live here too. Why are you? This guy was building the wall. We weren't doing it. We were happy to embrace him and have all this, listen to him and everything. But clearly, he was saying, you do this and you do that with your culture and all this. Well, hang on, excuse me. You're living here. You know, if you don't want to integrate, then what are we going to do? You know, that's what shocked me about it, and I put that in my latest book, and it's just an observation. I'm not being racist. I'm not saying I hate Muslims or anybody else. I'm just saying this is what happened. This is the truth. This is what I saw. This is what's happening. And there's very few people even dare say it now because they think by saying it, you're racist. You know what I mean? People have said to me, oh, you shouldn't rock the boat. You shouldn't say these things because it's racist. And I said, well, why is it racist? It's the truth. You know, if people, we've got a problem with integration, it's not our fault. They can integrate. We've opened the doors for these people, but they choose not to. That's their choice, you know.
Yeah,
so
they're choosing not to assimilate and to accept anything about your culture. It's not you that's being, no offense, a problem.
Quite. And it's just, why is it racist to even discuss it? It's been swept under the carpet for so long now that it's got completely out of hand. Nobody even I mean, I find people in bars, in the pubs, in a noisy bar where everybody's drinking, people who talk about this subject, they whisper, they oh, did you see what happened? There was a Muslim did this and did this. And I said, what? Excuse me, why are you whispering? That, you know, why? Oh, well, we don't want to upset anybody. We don't want people to think we're racist. Oh, and I think, well, hang on a minute. You know, just by discussing it, you're not racist. It's bizarre. It really is. But you cannot ever discuss anything like that within the police service in the UK. It is completely banned. It's an issue that does not occur because you're not allowed to. It's really odd. It really is.
And I'm sorry, I think if you can't discuss something, it only makes the problem worse.
Well, of course it does. And being forced to be diverse, being threatened into being diverse and embracing diversity, that's not genuine. That's
no,
fear.
It's fake. It's
intimidation. You're being intimidated into an ideology and a doctrine that is contrary to everything you. But not only that, if you get all this brainwashing, you end up thinking your own culture is somehow inferior. You really do. You get this idea that perhaps being Christian or Jewish or Sikh, perhaps we are wrong. Perhaps this is the wrong thing to do. Perhaps we should give up churches and alcohol. And a senior officer told me once that it's not for us. This was a chief inspector in Nottingham. He told me that it's not for the Muslims to change their way of life. It's for us to adapt to theirs. We have to be careful where we drink alcohol. This is not just in Ramadan.
I believe the term for that is bullocks.
Well, yeah. But this was not just in Ramadan. We have to be careful where we have alcohol. Our women have to be careful how we dress. And this is not just Ramadan. This is generally. You find that now.
If I was going to visit a mosque, I would inquire about the dress code.
Well,
and I actually have visited several mosques. And yes, you're talking to a Jewish woman who has gone into mosques out of curiosity for whatever reason, and I've had zero issue with it. I cover my hair. I respect their ways. I'm a guest in their holy building.
Yeah.
Just like I had a Muslim friend who came with me to synagogue.
Yeah.
And they followed suit. And I mean, like I said...
Yeah, but in the UK, all this stuff is being enforced by white people who seem to compete with one another to see how diverse they are. Do you know what I mean? They seem to be point scoring amongst each other to see how far they can push this agenda. It's not coming necessarily from the minorities themselves. It's coming from the white liberal elite, if you like, who are pushing this agenda because they think it's the right thing to do. But why? Why are they doing this? I don't understand.
I can't say I get it either. I mean, it's a point of ludicrous at this. I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, it is. And when it affects efficiency of the police force,
what about just personal safety and security?
Well,
you'd mentioned when we were preparing for the earlier interview that there were 1,400 women who'd been sexually assaulted in a specific area, and I don't recall the details.
Yeah, it was Rotherham in South Yorkshire over a 10-year period. Asian men had sexually assaulted 1,400 women and girls, mainly white.
Wait a minute. I don't think you have that many Asians over in the UK, do you?
Yeah, there's 3 million Muslims in the UK now.
But I meant Asians. You said...
Yeah, I know. That's the politically correct way of describing Pakistani Muslim men. The media describe them as Asian men. And now a lot of Sikh people and ethnic Chinese people came on to social media and saying, well, excuse me, I haven't been sexually assaulting anybody. Can you please get it right? But they won't say Muslim because nobody wants to upset them. And I think that's the key to the whole thing. It's like keeping a tiger in a cage. I'm not equating them with tigers, obviously, but there's a vociferous minority of these people who support jihad and all this sort of thing. So the best way to keep them in the box is to appease them. Now, I recently read a book about...
Excuse me, I'm going back to Ronald Reagan here. I don't believe he ever approved of appeasing anybody. At least not someone who was trying to harm you or your way of life or destroy you.
But that's what politicians, when they're faced with a real crisis, they try appeasement. I recently read a book about the build-up to World War II, and you wouldn't believe. I understood some of it before. I knew about it, but the appeasement of Hitler in the 30s was just incredible. They let him have Czechoslovakia, Austria. They just let him. They let him build up his army. They just let him get away with absolutely anything he wanted.
There was one politician in particular that was really known for it. I'm trying to remember the name.
Yeah, there was in England. It was Neville Chamberlain. Went to see Hitler, and he came back with this treaty, and peace in our time, and all this sort of thing. It was a load of rubbish. But because Hitler's thinking, if you appease somebody, they're thinking, well, this is great. I can ask for anything I want. It was a bluff. In the 33, when he came to power, it was a bluff. He was bluffing. And he was really surprised that he got away with it. And he just carried on. And it's the same with these people here, the vociferous minority who say, right, we don't want anybody to eat in front of us during Ramadan. And they're bluffing. And of course, if somebody had said, well, tough, why should we?
Okay, now if you happen to be right out front of a mosque or in a highly Muslim area, that's part of your patrol, or you've got to be there for something. I could see not doing it for that brief period of time, but to say that you can't do it your entire shift is just insanity.
Well, it is. I mean, we often get a cup of coffee or a sandwich at our desk in the general office with 35 people. But because there are at any one time probably one Muslim in the office, because we only had 3, but if we had one, if there was even a chance this person might walk in and see one of us drinking coffee or tea or eating, then it would, there's a blanket ban on it. Just in case this chap or girl saw us eating or drinking. And I think it's fear from the senior officers in case they go to litigation. You know what I mean? If they see everybody eating, say, well, actually, I'm offended because it's Ramadan and I don't want people. And the diversity issue is such that people are afraid of the litigation and perhaps being sued for being seen to be suspected of being racist. It's just so bizarre. It's gone beyond common sense, in my opinion.
It has. I mean, I could see, okay, let's not eat in the general office area. Make sure you eat in the canteen.
Yeah, but even in there, as I said earlier, even while you're in the designated eating area, I've seen colleagues stand up when a Muslim walks in at lunchtime and say, oh, I'm sorry, is it okay if I carry on eating? And they've said, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. And I thought, well, I didn't, but why would you? It's a canteen, for God's sake. You know, that's where you eat.
Hello, you don't want to be around food. Stay out of this room. Well,
quite, you know. But that's really bizarre. It's just how we've got to this stage. I don't understand how it's got. I mean, we don't do the same for Sikhs. There are 750,000 Sikh people in the UK. We don't do anything for them. We don't follow any of their customs or anything. We don't do anything for Yom Kippur or anything like that. We hardly do anything for Christmas. So why everybody in Britain knows it's Ramadan today, this week. Everybody. Well, why do we know? Why we, you know?
Well, I keep track, but then I keep track of all kinds of holidays on my calendar, just out of habit because of everything I'm involved with. And it's just one of those things of, you know, I always like to know what's going on. So I do have...
Yeah, but the thing is...
But I have the Sikh holidays, I have the Muslim holidays, I have the Jewish holidays, I have the Christian holidays.
But police officers take an oath, they swear an oath to treat everybody the same. Without fear or favour, they call it, and it's an oath. You swear it on the Bible or whatever you want to swear it on, and you swear it to the Queen, because in the UK, the Queen is the ultimate boss of the British police, okay? It's not it's not Parliament, it's not the government, it's not the Prime Minister, it's the Queen. We're Crown agents, okay? And so not to treat anybody different to anybody else, and yet we have to do this when Ramadan comes around, and we have to be very different.
Has anybody thought about bringing up the oath and mentioning to the higher-ups that we actually are treating people different by this behavior?
Well, I've done it in my book. In my book, Who'd Be a Copper, I've raised it in that. But nobody... If you can't raise it while you're still in the job. That's why I wrote the book after I left the police, because if I'd written that, it's very critical of political correctness within the police service. So if I'd written that while I was in the police, I would have been hung out to dry.
And you would have lost your job. But because you're retired...
all the 30 years work I would have done would have been for nothing. I would have lost pension.
Now, were you working on the rough draft while you were employed or making notes?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, of course. I knew I was going to write it because I took photographs and I took, I've got a thing I put in the book. We had a 2-page, every Ramadan we had a 2-page instructional command on Ramadan, right?
Okay.
And it's about providing meals for detained Muslims. It's allowing them to have prayer times and a simple courtesy such as Happy Eid or Eid Mubarak. These are Arabic phrases we were, as police officers, told to learn, okay? Now, we were not told any Hebrew phrases or Urdu phrases or anything like that, just Arabic phrases that we were to use during Ramadan, okay? Now, if that's not fear or favour, then what is? Why are we singling out these people? I have to say
it is.
Well, of course. I mean, a 2-page, I've got the thing here, a 2-page, it's in my book.
Yeah.
Two pages of instructions on how to treat Muslims differently from everybody else, okay? Now, the oath that cops take, as I said, without fear or favour, you treat everybody the same. Equality under the law, that's democracy, isn't it?
Yes.
The law is the rule of law, right? You can't decide to treat somebody different because they have a vociferous minority who might blow you up one day. Okay. Now, it's not the first time we did it. I remember years ago in the 80s, we had riots in London, mainly by the West Indian community who were disenfranchised and suffered racism. Okay, so we let a lot of cannabis smoking, marijuana smoking, we turned a blind eye to that at these West Indian parties and so on. We just asked them to turn the noise down. So there has been favoritism in the past, but that's gone now because the West Indian community in Britain is fully integrated and making a brilliant contribution to society. Okay, but the favoritism that we now find for these people is becoming over and above anything I've ever seen before.
So do you think the Muslims will integrate, or do you think they're just going to demand their little special niche?
Well, personally, I don't think so. No, I don't think they'll integrate.
Personally, I have to agree with you. I don't think they will here in this country either.
But you and I will be immediately classed as racist for saying that.
Good luck.
Well, we will though, won't we? You'll get all these mainly left-wing people saying, "Oh, you're obviously racist. You know, why do you?" I get asked on social media, "Why do you hate Muslims?" I don't hate Muslims. I hate an ideology that tries to tell me what to do. If you were a far right Christian and you were telling me that I couldn't drive my car on a Sunday because it's God's day, I'd just be critical of you for that. You'd
probably tell an Orthodox Jew who said you couldn't drive on a Saturday the same.
Well, quite. Yeah, I've visited the Middle East, and I know the fact that on Saturdays Orthodox Jews throw stones at people driving their car. I mean, that's bizarre. I mean, I'm an atheist. Okay, I don't believe in any of these sky daddies up there. I think the world will be better without religion. It served its purpose. We needed it in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages, to get us through. And now we're okay. We're intelligent beings. We don't need it. But I see people who are
personally draw some personal comfort from the practice of it.
That's fine.
Do I believe every part and parcel of it? No. Do I believe it provides personal comfort? Yes.
But you're not telling me I've got to follow your faith, are you?
No. My whole thing with religion is you believe in whatever you want to believe. Yeah. And I'm happy with you believing whatever you want to believe as long as you're not trying to kill me for my religion.
Well, that's right. Yeah. People can do what they like. I'm pro gay rights. I'm pro all sorts of issues that a lot of my right-wing friends, I have right-wing friends, left-wing friends, a lot of my right-wing friends say, why do you embrace all these gay rights and stuff? Well, it's because it doesn't affect me. They can do what they like. It's freedom. That's the issue here with me. It's freedom. If you want to do whatever you want behind...
I actually did an interview with a 19-year-old gay male from the UK about his coming out, not quite a year after he did it, and how it changed his life and how he actually felt like he could be himself among his friends once he came out. And I mean, I didn't ever stop being his friend just because I found out he was gay.
No, I've got no issues with anybody. Nobody, not gays, Muslims, anybody at all. And I don't.
They're trying to tell you what to do.
Well, yeah, it's a freedom issue. If people want to do that, that's up to them. But it's when people start telling me I've got to do it, then that's excuse me, I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to say, no, sorry, I don't want to be gay. I don't want to be Muslim. I don't want to fast for a month. I don't want to do all this sort of stuff. So just, that's the issue I've got. People can do what the hell they want, but it's when they try to do it to everybody else. That's what annoys me, and I will never, ever stop.
And I can see that. I mean, like I said, the one time I asked anybody to do anything, it was for 20 minutes. I was at the person's house, and I said, I'm just going to be here for a few minutes. Can you hold off throwing the cookies in the oven?
Yeah.
And, of course, being a good friend of mine, and they're like, oh, that's right, today's Yom Kippur. Yes, I'm in between stuff at the synagogue. And they went, oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah. And I'm like, is it a problem that I even have it out? No, just don't bake it. You haven't started yet. Just, could you hold off for a few minutes?
There's not enough people sticking up for themselves. Everybody's behaving a little bit like sheep, too afraid to say anything. Well, the time has come where we've all got to say, look, hang on, that's enough. I actually like our way of life, so, I'm going to protect it. So there, if you don't like it, then,
bugger off.
Yeah, bugger off.
I do know a little bit. I have a friend in New Zealand, which, of course, they have a combination of Aussie slang and UK slang. So I've picked up.
Yeah, you seem to know it.
I'll put it this way. Enough to get by for the most part, but would I ever want to try and have a full-on conversation in slang? Probably not. Enough to know the odd phrase, of course. But yeah, so... I mean, like I said, I have no issue with you having whatever you want. Don't force it on me.
That's right. That's the issue. That's just it. People can do what the hell they like. It's a free country. But it's when they try to impose it on everybody. That's what I don't like.
And I actually 100% agree with you. So, are you? Do you have any plans for another book, or are you going to?
Yes, I'm writing one now. I'm writing a book called Province 44. It's my first novel, and it's about a pseudo-religious death cult that takes over Europe.
So, is it fiction?
It's fiction. But it's nothing to do with the I word.
Hey.
It's a pseudo-religious death cult that beheads people in the street, but it's nothing to do with... It doesn't even get a mention.
Islam doesn't even get a mention.
No, and it's nothing to do with Islam. Just as Obama says, when ISIS do their latest thing, it's nothing to do with Islam. Same with me. It's culpable deniability, isn't it? It's nothing to do with Islam. So people can think what they like,
That's awesome. I was, there were a couple things I wanted to mention. There's 50 states in this country. Every state does handle guns differently. In some states, you do need a permit to purchase a gun. The state I am a legal resident of, you do not, and that would be Oklahoma. Now, like I said, I don't live there, but I was traveling there and able to pick up the handgun and bring it back to the state where I live, so... And the other thing I wanted to mention, I have a favorite author who's recently come under a lot of scrutiny for speaking out. And I don't know if you may have heard of him, Brad Thor.
No, I haven't, no.
He writes thrillers, in fact, and he's a New York Times #1 best-selling author. So for him to actually come out and make a political stance for a man who depends on his income for people buying his books...
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty brave.
Yes,
especially
that's right.
Considering his next book release is the 14th of this month.
Yeah, you tend to find in the UK that if you want to be a mainstream author or in anything in the arts or entertainment, you have to either keep your mouth shut or be very left-wing.
No. If you look, Brad Thor has a public Facebook page, and if you look at some of his postings on there, you will see highly conservative.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Highly right-wing. He moved from Chicago to Nashville, Tennessee because of the taxes and the gun policies. He has a book that's actually been banned in Saudi Arabia because of the subject matter.
That's an accolade, really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you wonder why he's my favorite author. I mean, you'd probably like his books. I mean, very conservative. I mean, there's some U.S. political intrigue in there, but you'd be able to follow it well enough. He does it right, and I know his books are available as far as Australia, so I'm sure there's a UK version as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said, his books literally they're literally white knuckle throw rides. He took something as boring as the real history of our Federal Reserve banking system. He took the real history and wove it into a thriller complete with dead bodies and flying bullets.
Right.
How many people could actually take the history of a banking system?
Yeah, and make it interesting. Yeah.
That takes talent.
It does.
And that's all of his books, or at least a lot of them, have real facts and real history. He likes to write what he calls faction. But, I mean, he has actually come under scrutiny and fire for his political views and his stances. I mean, he has people, he gets everything from the death threat to the, I'm never going to buy your book again.
Oh, yeah.
And his whole thing is, good riddance. I mean, this man, he's been on the #1 on the New York Times bestseller list twice. He's been on the New York Times bestseller list 10, 12 times. And, I mean, so, and for him to come out and say that he can't vote for either Hillary or Trump and explain why. And he basically says that liberty is his guiding principle and that he doesn't feel that either candidate is liberty's safest place.
Yeah.
And he goes on to explain why. And then he was on a talk show recently, a radio show or TV, I don't remember which. And he's like, okay, I'm going to play what if here as a thriller author. What if Trump gets elected and he totally oversteps the Constitution to the point where he declares martial law on his own and won't allow elections to happen, won't allow Congress to meet? How would we get him out of office?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people took that as a death threat against Trump. And I mean, the person whose show he was on was actually suspended from satellite radio over it.
Blimey.
And the person whose show he was on is just as right-wing as Brad is, so it was Glenn Beck. And he was just like, hey, if I'm not upsetting a few people, I must be doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like I said, when you mentioned getting blocked and banned and all that, I was like, you're doing something. My first thought was, you're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Yeah, quite.
So, but I just thought you'd find that of intrigue. So, do you have is there anything we didn't touch on? I do have a couple of questions about writing if you've got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I'm down to 1% on my iPad, but we'll see how it goes.
How long did it take you to write your books?
It takes about a year to write a book, but it's just a process I don't find difficult. I've got 5 on Amazon. They don't do well in the US, but they're doing well in the UK.
Oh, I may have to pick up that one about being a copper, and the title.
Who'd be a copper? Yes.
Who'd be a copper? I think that one sounds incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to thank you for coming on.
That's my pleasure. Absolutely enjoyed it.
And it's been fun, and I'll have to remember you for future.
Yeah, definitely, anytime. I'll make sure my iPad gets properly charged next time.
Oh, technical glitches happen all the time. We had the server.
Yeah, okay. It's been really nice talking to you.
So
it's my pleasure. I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Would you like to give out your Twitter handle or your web address for anybody that wants to contact you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at JonathanNichol4, the number 4 at the end. And my website is jonathannicholas.org.uk.
Awesome. Well, like I said, thank you very much for agreeing to this interview.
No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You can let down if you wanna.